All right. Hello, besties. Never let it be said that I don't listen to what people want. So, oh man, that's gonna be interesting. Turn that around so I'm not like doing anything. Okay. Don't wanna have a little green light shining on my neck the whole time I'm talking to you. All right. But today I'm gonna do two videos. One's gonna be on covers, and this is the cover video. This is gonna be more evergreen. I'm gonna go over some of my favorite covers and why I like them, and then go over why you probably shouldn't be so busy. It's so early, I haven't even put my watch on. It's Christmas Eve. If you watch this in the future, if you celebrate, Merry Christmas. If not, celebrate anyway because it's time to be festive. Um, Hello, Weaver, your bestie, um, your internet father. So let's talk about making a good cover. All right, so um, I want you to look at this photo right here and tell me what you can tell me. But so this is a image of Hiroshi by Buddha the Bard. It's a great cover. But for most of you guys that are watching, this is gonna be kind of a visual one because I have like a stack of books here I'm gonna go over. This is gonna be kind of a visual one, and I'm sorry. Usually you can just like kind of tune out, but I have to kind of show you what I mean. All right. So this is a great book, but look at how big it is. Now, if you're on like a YouTube thing, this is gonna be super tiny. All right. And now I need you to think about this. Most people, when they see your cover, is going to be this size. It's going to be thumbnail sized. All right. So you have to get your point across. And basically, all I can see from here, and I have perfect vision. I had LASIK when I was 13 years ago, right? All I can see is that it's got a little bit of contrast, right? So let me go into some contrast. Actually, I'm going to jump to. All right, so one of my favorite covers kind of shows what I'm talking about. So the contrast here is that we have an assassin on the cover, and then there's white on the outside. So real easy to tell. Hey, the author made a choice here. There's a contrast between this mostly black and this mostly um, white on the outside, right? Cover the title is in purple, right? So contrast, right? So for Hiroshi, right? So Hiroshi is contrasted with the ground underneath him, and Hiroshi is contrasted with the black on the top. So we, as animals, are trained to see contrast because we used to be persistence hunters, right? So this is an example of a good one. Now, let me also go on further to say, like, this makes some promises. It tells me then as right, okay, there's something roguish about this one or assassinish, right? This is a story about an assassin in a place called in a group called Long Whisper. Sorry, in a group called Black Rabbits. Long Whisper is the area, but like all of Joe's covers are very simple, right? And they focus on like a main character, right? And Joe actually James Gillespie, my buddy, he actually had like a comic commission, which I should ask him to just be like, hey, can I have that? Because it's like 30 pages. And one of the people that wrote, one of the fans, like, did a comic because they love it. But like, look at the contrast, all right? So we have a white background focusing on one character, right? We see this blood and bounty. Okay, blood and bounty is in red. So there's some contrast there. Now, again, as a thumbnail, right? I can see one main character, right? So a lot of these fantasy covers, and I grabbed a contemporary fantasy novel to kind of do it. They have like a character and they're facing away from the thing, and they're like, you know how like bad guys face away from explosions, right? Like this is one of my favorite books ever, The Crippled God. Um, it features a soldier, a Malazan soldier, staring away from the main character, right? So you'll see a lot of this on Royal Road, right? So look at this. All right, so the contrast between there's a character and then there's what's happening behind them, right? Um, some of you guys might know the one third, two third rule. I don't know if that comes into play here, but like uh, you should have like one third of this should be like the actual thing, and then the rest is like that. So, and I also like specifically for covers, I like to have I like to have the name up here, but this is Steven Erickson. This is his name, and then I like to have the author's name down here. That's kind of what happened here with Blood and Bounty. The name of the book is up here, and the name of the author is down here. For Royal Road, I would skip putting the author's name on the cover. You don't really need it. It's extra. That helps. But like, there are certain things that signal to people that your book is fantasy, and one of them is having like specific tones and colors, right? So I also write military sci-fi, right? I'll go to that in a second. But like, if I just show you this book, Toll the Hounds, Malazan book 7, 8, whatever, what genre do you think it is, right? So am I looking at this and am I betraying the genre, right? So in order to kind of like figure out what you want in a cover, you have to be a bit genre savvy. So like, okay, does this make the genre, right? Does this make sense for the genre? And let me show you something that makes sense for the genre, but is also very stylized, right? So one of my favorite books about, this is in first person, 16 Ways to Defend a Walled City. Okay, what does this promise you? Okay, medieval, right? Uh, if I haven't had any reference to the Renaissance, I'm like, okay, I have no idea what this is, but like knowing that this is about an army, right? 16 Ways to Defeat a Walled City. It's actually a very humorous first-person book, military campaign. I think you should consider like, what are the main elements you want? Do you want to have one main character? Do you want to have them doing something? One of the rules about covers is you don't really put a cover in that is a scene in the book, right? So like in my series, which I don't. Okay, here, do I have it here? In the Badger Company. Oh, no. All right, this is a fantasy book. This is my book. This is not a scene from the book, right? Not only that, like the cards don't really work that way, even though, well, I guess it could, because that would be shards flying at them. Don't make it a scene from the book, right? So it has to be something that could be a scene. Does that make sense? Right. So like this does not happen in the book, as described as such. This attack, because if you look on the back, there's like zombie dwarves attacking them. It's about zombie dwarves. It's about apocalypse, and they start off in Dwarfland. Are you betraying the theme of it, right? And so this is where I say get onto Amazon, look at the top 100 covers in that specific genre, and then get onto Royal Road, right? Now, your cover can be too busy, and I've got one here that I think is too busy. However, this is a villainess thing, and I don't think that I might not be the audience for this. I got this for free, by the way, at one of those little free libraries. I was like, let me read that. I have not read it yet because I'm always confused. So like this tells me I think this is a manga. Readers, this is not a manga. This is a light novel. Now, do I read light novels? Yes. Is that my plane ticket? Yes. Right. But if I see something on the inside like this, I'm like, okay, this looks like a manga to me, right? I don't have any manga to bring up, but like I see this, I'm like, okay, now I'm like light novel or manga, right? It's also, this is too busy, right? So you can have a great cover, right? And it can be too busy for Royal Road or web novel or whatever. Well, not web novel, novelizing, whatever, wherever you're posting, because it's just too busy, right? So I think you should just keep it kind of simple, which is why you should consider like what your audience expectations are. So this is one of the Zodiac series. This is definitely romance. This is definitely like Fae series. You see the contrast between like there's a color down here, then there's the name title. I like title and then author name on full books, but like it doesn't really matter. That is a stylistic choice. You can't really go wrong with where the title is so long as it's there, unless it's like not there. So stylistically, what does it tell you? This tells you it's a romance. This tells you it's like a dark romance based off the color choice, and then it tells me two protagonists, right? If nothing else, right? Um, this is spicy. This is my little disclaimer. Although my wife says it's not spicy enough, so take that with a grain of salt. All right, so I'm going to do this again. What is this? What does this promise you? I read this one blogging. This is old. This is a nonfiction, right? So if you're going to have these kind of bold colors, make it look like a nonfiction, unless you're doing like some sort of workplace comedy, like I wouldn't go that way. So think about the colors that this is using to convey nonfiction versus the ones that this is doing to convey medieval times or Renaissance times, right? Oh, this is fun. All right, so with that, there's going to be certain colors or certain color combinations that are very specific to your genre. So very specific to military sci-fi is the reds and blues that you might see a lot on stuff. So I love this author, but this is definitely very blue, right? Ian Banks. This is the Culture series. So I would say like you're writing sci-fi or military sci-fi, think about like space and think about like reds and blues, right? Especially military sci-fi reds and blues. That is like if you just go to top 10, top 100 sci-fi, like you'll see the colors. So you can see the color scheme and you just be like, hey, this is what I'm looking for in that color, this composition, right? What does this tell you? Like Gwendolyn Still, okay, it's a pastoral scene. Here's Sophie Nadash, and then here's like the town that she's going to. Um, right? So like this is a calming, right? This is a fantasy because she's facing away from the camera, right? And then we decided we were going. So I don't know if you see this, but the L goes through her arm because we like that kind of cool shit. Um, and I love that little technique right there. And then like the birds are ahead of it. So like little things like that, that is great for the final version, right? It's not going to show up in Royal Road when everything's a thumbnail. Again, like look at Hiroshi, right? The contrast there, sumo wrestler, right? Like what this is great, but you kind of lose it as a thumbnail a little bit. So like, all right, well, maybe I would just have the cat, right? And then I know like, okay, I'm trying to signal that this is a cozy. I'm trying to signal that there is a female protagonist, right? So already you're like, okay, and then it's a coffee machine, right? I've already talked about this at length, but like this is a great cover for a book. This is going to do well as a book. It is. All right, let me click on that and let me take a look. Interesting as a thumbnail. And that's kind of what you lose. Like, I need a little bit of contrast to cut between the two things, right? And then like one of my absolute favorite covers, the spear that cuts through the water. It's like there's a hand superimposed over that, and then there's the two main characters. They're fighting, right? But it's like all these little details that you're going to lose as a thumbnail. So if you can just get the composition of it to be right, you just say, okay, I want to have a main character, and I want to look at the top 100 ish books on Amazon and that specific thing, right? So the contrast is what catches us, the colors and what's going on. Like this tells me a story, this tells me it's a pastoral scene, this tells me this is a calm read. Um, this tells me science fiction or military science fiction, right? So like when you're catching my eye, I want you to stick to the genre convention, right? You can go a little bit outside of it, but like if you're betraying, like you're having a promise of a premise. So the promise when I show you a cover is that the prose is going to follow that, right? And this is hard for you to say if you don't look at a lot of covers, if you're not a visual person, which is why I say, okay, look at the colors that the top 100 people are using. If they're all using the same kind of setup of colors, that's telling you something. That's telling you that this specific thing, like red and blues, they're conveying that. Same thing with like having a protagonist facing down a foe. Like this is kind of just the traditional fantasy thing, or maybe like I wish I had the Demon World Boba Shop cover to show you. Like it's just them inside the Boba Shop, hanging out, right? Like you don't want to like you're not betraying yourself by not leaning into what it has, right? So contrast is what catches my eye, right? So like the contrast of this being a white print a white paper with a red handprint and then like black lettering. So that contrast like visually brings me something like that. But the question is, what are you contrasting? What colors are? And that is your genre, right? And I think that I've explained that as simply as I can, right? It's up to you to kind of stick to genre convention a little bit, and then like your authorial voice, your artist voice, that is the difference, right? Like, why is this black and purple, right? That is a design choice that they chose. You can choose a design choice that adheres to the genre conventions, or you can try to bug it, right? And then like you're like, hey, this promise, so like the cover is going to promise one thing, but it's not. And I realize this isn't the very like, I'm not really being very prescriptive. What I'm saying is you just have to like look at a lot, and then your unconscious brain be like, okay, this is what everyone else is doing. I want to take a look at what everyone else is doing, and then I want to make something out of that. And then you can have your notes for your artist, right? Or if you're like me, I'm gonna draw something anime style for you. Do you want the character facing the front? Do you want the character facing the back? What does that convey, right? So like, am I doing a pastoral scene to convey that it's cozy? Am I doing what is it, right? So like you have a vision, you're like, okay, this is what I think. And then like after you commission a few artists, like you can kind of just be like, I trust your vision. Here's what's going on, and like here's some like guidelines. Like I love it. I love giving an artist some guidelines and just being like, I want you to go nuts with this a little bit along your style, because finding the right artist that matches your style will make it so much easier just to like convey. That's why I love getting covers by Fuyu, because he's just like, he gets it. I'm just like, hey, I need a girl who is playing chess with people's lives, and like there's like a table of mahjong tiles, and like he fucking knocked out of the park for sect leader. And I'm like, all right, this is better than I could have ever imagined. And he's like, got it. And that's why it's important to know your artists and pay them. So this has been a kind of like a primer for how to do a cover for Royal Road, or like what to look for, right? So like make it pop, give some contrast. Maybe you don't really need your author name there, because they're gonna find that out easily. But you should have the title somewhere, either on the top 1/3 or the bottom 1/3, and then the remaining items should be behind that, according to what's going on in your book, and then what you want to convey, right? So convey the actual story, convey what's actually happening. Don't sell me sci-fi when you have a fantasy book, right? Let me do a little side by side of two of my favorite authors. Wildly different expectations, right? Go with the expectation, see what's out there. All right. Before you brief a cover artist, like look, at least peruse the top people in your genre and what's trending right now. All right. So like the top and rising stars in your genre. Like comedy has a specific thing, so I will try to adhere to that. But it will also like say like, hey, here's the elements of my story. Here's what I want to do. Right. Go. All right. So in the comments, let me know what else you want me to do. I could really go over. I really want to go over using AI to make covers. But I want you to be able to brief cover artists what your vision is, and then just be like, hey, these are the tones I'm trying to hit. These are the colors, and then this is kind of like what I was thinking. And then what I usually do is I'll reference several other covers of like, hey, this is the style I'm looking for. Do it in your own. This is the kind of cover I'm looking for. Do it in your own style, and go nuts, right? Like once you've seen like someone do a cover in their style, you're like, okay, I like that. I want you to kind of incorporate some of these details, right? And that's where the magic happens. All right, so this is supposed to be evergreen. So go look at some covers, look at a lot of covers, and then look at some more, and then like contrast what it looks like on Royal Road versus what it looks like on Amazon, right? Look at those top 100 in your genre. Look at those top 50 that are going right now, because those are very like fresh. This is very topical. Amazon might not be as it's fresh, but it's like not the same. But that's it. Have a good day, besties.